Okay, so get this. Today, we are diving back to 1987.
Oh, wow. 87.
Yeah, we're cracking open the Sears wish book for kids, that ultimate childhood wish list.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Spending hours with that thing.
Right, circling everything. So we're going to dig into this time capsule, not just for the nostalgia, but to see what this iconic catalog tells us about the late 80s, what life was like back then.
I'm game. Let's rewind.
Let's do it. All right, first up, the toy section. And bam, right off the bat, this Ronald McDonald musical tee got me how funny.
A musical tee.
Yeah, it plays You Are My Sunshine. Can you imagine kids today jamming out to that?
It's a classic. But, it does make you wonder, have kids' musical tastes changed that much?
Right.
And it's not just the music. You see so much licensed stuff. NFL gear, Disney Sesame Street, even Cabbage Patch Kids. It's everywhere.
Speaking of Cabbage Patch Kids, it's a full-on invasion. Dolls, those little back babies.
Total Cabbage Patch overload.
Right. It really makes you think, how much of this licensed merchandise is just marketing?
Totally. It's all about leveraging those familiar faces to sell stuff. I bet it's even more common now than it was back then.
I bet you're right. Okay, but beyond the brands, some of these toys really capture that 80s tech vibe, like this laser shooting game.
Oh, yeah.
It's battery-operated multiple targets, electronic scoring.
Wow, the height of technology.
I know, right? It's amazing how technology influences even those simpler toys.
Yeah, you can't help but compare it to the video game consoles kids have today. What a difference a few decades make. Makes you think, did simpler toys actually lead to more creativity? If kids weren't given pre-programmed storylines and characters, maybe they had to rely more on their own imaginations a little bit more.
Totally. Like this dinosaur comforter.
Yeah.
It comes with these attachable plush dinosaurs, so you could move them around, create your own little prehistoric world.
I love that. A blank slate for a kid's imagination.
Exactly. And speaking of classic characters, there's this Winnie the Pooh train set, Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, all chugging along. Those characters have really stood the test of time.
They really have. It does make you think how much of this is marketing to kids using characters they love.
For sure. And it worked back then and it works now. But okay, before we get totally lost in the toy aisle, let's talk 80s fashion. Get ready for neon colors, geometric patterns, stripes galore.
Oh, yeah. The 80s, those bold fashion choices. And puff print.
Oh, totally.
Those shirts with the raised designs, I practically lived in those.
The best. And those ski jackets. So 80s.
Yeah. Bright colors, geometric patterns. What a statement.
Right. It's interesting, though, how different the boys and girls styles were back then. Like lots of pinks, pastels, and floral patterns for the girls.
That's so true. Because make you think, how much of those distinctions really changed?
Yeah.
How much is clothing still influenced by those gender roles?
It's interesting to think about. And you know what else I noticed? Even back then, that whole broken-in look was, especially for boys.
Yeah.
And that style has made such a comeback lately.
Totally. What's old is new again.
Right. Speaking of old becoming new again, did you see the prices on some of this stuff? Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. Like $13.99 for a whole outfit. That brings us to our next stop, our price check.
Okay, let's do it.
Remember when a BMX bike cost less than $100?
Those were the days.
Like, check out this awesome Spalding BMX bike, laid back seat, post side pull caliper brakes, the works.
Hi.
And the price tag. A cool $99.99.
Wow.
Can you imagine finding a bike like that for under $100 today?
Not a chance. Those were the days.
I know, right? It's crazy. And remember those Cabbage Patch Kid bath babies we saw earlier?
Yeah.
Only $29.99 back then.
Wow.
Now you see vintage ones going for hundreds online.
No way.
Seriously, talk about a blast from the past and a potential gold mine. Okay, one more price comparison. This Winnie the Pooh train set, complete with Pooh and the gang, was just $9.99.
Get out of here.
I know. Today you'd be lucky to find a licensed character train set for under $50.
It's crazy how much the cost of, everything has gone up.
Right.
But it's not just inflation. Right?
Yeah, what else is going on?
I mean, it makes you think about changes in manufacturing, global trade, even just consumer demand. Like a lot of manufacturing has moved overseas, which can sometimes mean lower production costs.
Right.
But then you've got increased demand for certain products, and that can drive prices way up. It's a whole economic balancing act.
My head's spinning. Okay, but before we wrap up our trip down memory lane, I want to point out a few things that go beyond just the products.
Okay.
Like, look at these ads for kids' furniture. That classic oak look built-in toy storage.
Oh, wow. Total nostalgia overload.
I know. What stands out to you?
I don't know. It's like they were so focused on making things durable and practical back then.
Yeah. Like these pieces were built to last. to handle anything a kid could throw at them.
Exactly. And they definitely weren't cheap.
No, they weren't. This toy chest desk and bench combo was $49.99.
Wow. Parents were really willing to invest in furniture that would stand the test of time.
For sure, it speaks to a different mindset, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else is interesting? That say no to drugs message at the bottom of this page. It's like a little time capsule of what people were worried about back then.
It's true. Those messages were everywhere. It's kind of wild how a catalog page can be this like historical artifact. You see the products, but you also see the anxieties and values of that time.
Totally. It reminds you that these catalogs weren't just about selling stuff. They were a reflection of society at that moment.
So true. It makes you wonder, what will people in the future think when they look back at our catalogs or our websites or whatever people shop from?
Right. Like, what will those things say about us?
It's a trip to think about. But for now, let's savor this blast from the past. Remember spending hours circling your most wanted items in the wish book, hoping they would magically appear under the Christmas tree.
Oh, yeah. Those pages were sacred. Like a treasure map to a kid.
Yeah.
It was a whole ritual.
Totally. Did you have any go-to sections you'd flip to first?
Oh, yeah. The toy section for sure. What about you?
Definitely the toys. But honestly, I loved looking at everything. The clothes, the bikes, even the furniture. It was like this portal to a world of possibilities. And speaking of possibilities, those prices seemed almost reasonable back then. A BMX bike for under $100, it blows my mind. It makes you wonder, how did we go from those prices to what we see today?
Yeah, it's not a simple answer. There's inflation, of course.
Right.
But there's also, like, shifts in manufacturing costs. You've got global trade dynamics, even changes in what consumers demand and what they're willing to pay for. Like, we often forget a product's price isn't just about the materials and the labor that went into making it.
True.
It's also about brand recognition, marketing costs, all that behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We don't always think about all those hidden factors that influence the prices we see. It's like a whole secret world of economics.
Right. Makes you realize something as simple as a wish book can really make you think about consumerism and how we shop and what we value as a society.
It's true. This catalog has brought back so many memories, but it's also given us a lot to think about.
For sure. From the toys to the fashion to those crazy prices, we've really taken a deep dive into the 80s.
We have. And even if you weren't a kid in 1987, this catalog gives you a glimpse into what life was like back then.
Totally. It makes you wonder, what things from today will people look back on in the future? Like, what will be our generation's wish book?
That's a great question. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for now, let's hold on to those childhood memories and appreciate this blast from the past.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for taking this trip down memory lane with me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this exploration of the 1987 Sears Wish Book for Kids. We hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something new. Until next time, keep those childhood dreams alive, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.